Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Nerd Bites Weekly Show. This is episode number 6, if you can believe it or not. As always, I'm here with my best buddy, Ket Soren.
That's me. I'm Ket Soren.
We also have a very special guest today on our show from Dungeon Crawler Audio. Ket Soren, take it away.
Yeah. So we are here tonight with Dungeon Crawler Audio. I will let you guys introduce yourselves. So let's start with I think it's backwards. So who is this way? Nick.
Yep, that's Nick.
Nick, what I go by in the day-to-day, Dungeon Crawler Cooper, as far as this company is concerned. Just one of the music makers and founders of the company.
Awesome.
Great.
All right, who's next?
Who's next?
I think it's me.
Okay.
I'm Jess. Hello. I do the social media and I do the curating of the artwork that we need for our videos. And I go by Dungeon Crawler Sella as far as the company is concerned.
Very
That's
nice.
me.
Very nice. And then last but not least,
I'm your boy, Des Turismo, aka Desmond Diamonds. I make a lot of the music here and am responsible for trying to get our content to show up in front of your face by a lot of technological magic.
great.
I love it.
I'm the wizard.
We got two wizards. We got three wizards, honestly. We got social media wizard. I don't even know if this is going to be showing right on Twitch. So, social media wizard, founder, and music boys. So, before we get too much into Dungeon Crawler Audio, of course, we're going to have a segment for you guys. This show is all about Dungeons and Dragons.
All about it. That's all we're talking about today is Dungeons and Dragons. So
Yes.
all of us here play D&D, am I right?
Yes.
So, and I know there's going to be some people that are watching this stream that play D&D, and I think it's something that's really taken off since the pandemic, because I can attest to that. I started playing during the pandemic because I was bored. I was like, well, what can I do with my friends? And there's D&D Beyond and Roll20. Here we are. So, and we're still playing however many years, 4 years later, which is crazy. We've got a full agenda of D&D today. Ket Soren is going to kind of lead the show because she is a DM herself, and I believe my DM should be here watching as well, so shouts out to him. If you're here,
Hi, other DMs.
say it in the chat.
Better be watching, DM.
We're all watching each other. It's gonna be a standoff. Okay, well, you know what, Dustin, you did a really good segue into that. So let's do a quick. How did you guys get into D&D? And then we'll go into what is D&D. But let's start with the roots of it. So, who wants to go first? Des.
Yeah, so I got into D&D growing up. My uncle was really into role-playing games and like video games, nerd culture as you'd call it in general, like anime and whatnot. And so that's how I got into a lot of it. He had a regular D&D campaign with his friends, but to be honest, I wasn't really super interested in Dungeons and Dragons at first. I was really into like the Robotech RPG, and then if anyone heard of Shadowrun, I was really into Shadowrun as a kid.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't until around the time, actually, it was a little bit before the pandemic, that Nick got me really into Dungeons and Dragons. He had started playing with some friends, and really wanted to get me into it because he knew I was into role-playing games, but just hadn't really been playing Dungeons and Dragons.
We actually started out doing Edge of the Empire and the Force and Destiny games. So Damien and I would do back and forth, like DM one-person kind of games where I had a campaign that he had a character in, and then he had a campaign where I had a character in. We just spent like almost about a year kind of going back and forth, learning the ropes of that specific system, and then kind of just getting comfortable being in the DM seat until a couple of years went by, and I started up a home game. A couple of friends that we know in the state, and a couple of people on Facebook, although only one of them ever actually stuck around. We just kind of got a group together, and then I've been DMing for that game since. Kind of our story sort of just transitioned there pretty seamlessly, the way you brought up us playing Edge of the Empire and stuff like that. But yeah, I had a friend that got me into it a couple years before the pandemic, and that was a pretty long-standing. Like we're still playing that campaign, um, long-standing campaign based on basically just our characters. So we weren't playing through any kind of module or system. The DM just used all of our backstories to kind of omegle together this really long story. And then our Monday night game started out in Lost Mines of Phandelver, the like starter set. And it's just kind of moved on into a bunch of different stuff thrown in. And now we're on like a campaign 2, basically, where we've got new characters and we're just
Wow.
dungeon diving into as many different things as possible. I've had Tales of the Yawning Portal sitting here for too long, and I really want to get through some of those dungeons in it. So we're finally doing White Plume Mountain.
Wow. That's cool. I like that. I like that a lot,
Nice.
that you took the characters and just made this long story. That's great. I love it.
Yeah, that's
And
incredible. I
and
love it.
Jess, or should
Yes.
I say dungeon crawler Stella?
Stella.
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 Stella?
Yeah. Stella.
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 Yes. Okay. Actually, yeah. That's pretty close. Um, I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons. Well, I've been playing tabletop for about 10 years. I got into it because a bunch of Bible study kids kidnapped me from church and made me play.
Okay.
And that's how I got into it.
That is literally the first I've ever heard of anything like that. That is hilarious.
That is great. I
Yeah.
love that. I imagine
Yeah.
you, I don't know why, but it's so graphic of these church kids kidnapping you, like putting a bag over your head saying, "You're gonna go play Dungeons and Dragons," like taking you.
Okay, so it wasn't quite that dramatic. Mostly it was just a, hey Jessica, we're going to Bible study. And then we were at a game shop instead. And then I was
Oh,
making
he
a
kidnapped
character.
you, put a dice bag over your head and threw you in a van.
You're in.
That's the story now. It's live on the internet,
I
therefore
loved
it's canon.
I've loved it ever
Great.
since. It's wonderful. I've played to the Empire. I've played Pathfinder. I played Dungeons and Dragons. I've played a lot of a really obscure tabletop called Metal Magic and Lore, which is very fun, but obscure. Most recently, Nick has been my most common DM. I've been playing in his games for the last 2 years or so. I'm part of that group. We also do AL on Thursdays most weeks.
It's Adventure League for the uninitiated.
Okay.
Adventure League, yes, which is it's Dungeons and Dragons. It's 5e. For the most part, it's been converted, and then you just go and play with strangers. I know,
So
go play with strangers.
The way that most games would have like a online sort of fashion, like you could play Call of Duty online, Dungeons and Dragons has a living version of their game, which is very similar. It's called Adventure League. So you can sign up online and take a character through as many different games as you want. The characters remain consistent between each campaign. So the way that they level up or gain items and all this stuff is the same for each game that you would join in Adventure League. So you can have a character that hops around and
That's
plays
really
tons
cool.
of different campaigns.
It's like you're being a merc, kind of.
A little bit.
Yeah, kind
Yeah.
of.
That's cool.
You can
Yeah.
have a whole roster of characters, so every time you play, you could be somebody different as well.
That's sweet.
Yeah, it's
My
pretty
schedule is changing here soon, but Nick, that sounds like a lot of fun. I know you invited me because you run that sometimes, or I think more recently, regularly, right? You run it.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Every Thursday, every Monday and Thursday are my DMing days, basically. And then my campaign that I get to play in is on pause right now. But I feel very fortunate as a D&D player that I get to run 2 campaigns and play in one.
That's
Yeah.
I think a lot of
incredible.
people get
Oh
that.
yeah,
No, that's
Oh.
that's quite the commitment, brother.
yeah, for real. So for me, I am a self-proclaimed forever DM. I started actually this year, so I am like the newest, I guess, member to this community. And honestly, it was the best, worst mistake of my life because it started off as a Mind Theater, like one shot, and then as a matter of fact, it started off with Mind Theater one shot, like a granny's pie mission, and I played with my mother, who is still a player in my current campaign. And John, he's on the chat.
Segue.
And
Speaking of John, Nerd Bites Weekly MVP John says first tabletop he ever played was BattleTech.
I have
Oh,
never played
man.
that.
Oh, I've done BattleTech
Man,
too.
God, you know what's up.
Holy crap! I hate the
he
character
also
creation
he
in
also
that game.
says she's a great DM. I enjoy her storytelling. So,
Thank you.
aw.
Nice.
No amount of ass kissing is going to get you to live.
Oh,
Game curse
no.
twice as hard next time.
Yeah.
Spoken like a true DM.
So we did a one shot, and then honestly, I just dove in. Like, I have spent so much money on this game, and the prep. I mean, Dustin, do you have some of the pictures? Let me just throw
I
up some
was
pictures.
literally gonna do that right now. Yeah.
I built a custom table for my players to accommodate for online, because I have 2 online players, 2 in real life players. And so we recently transferred over to Roll20. So I have that TV inlaid in the table. And so now my players at the table can see the map. I can customize it as I need to with Roll20. I have the whole, like, you guys can't see it. Shoot. It's on the Twitch channel there. But it's really cool, I promise.
You made a whole damn table. That's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
It's
We
so cool.
have the whole, like, cloud sky where
I was
LEDs
showing
change
that
color,
off
so
there
it
right now,
looks
yeah.
all cloudy. I have a fog machine.
Is that? Did you post a picture of that? I don't see it in here.
I didn't do the fog machine.
Okay.
That was a lot more work.
These character models though too are incredible.
Yeah, we do Hero Forge, so big shout out to Hero Forge. My players love that. We use, so it's a combination of Roll20 and we have the minis on top of that. So it's a little bit more prep. And then of course I made on Twitch, you guys can see a whole, like, D&D board. It's basically like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where Charlie is looking at the board and there's strings attached. Like, we
Yes.
have a map. We're playing Curse of Strahd. We have a whole map, and there's, like, papers.
Well,
Like, it's nuts right now.
speaking of doing
Vampire
evil
question mark?
things,
Yeah.
Stephen Huff says she's very good. She made my character eat children. What? I got to hear the
I
story
didn't make him
behind
do
that.
anything. I didn't make him do anything. Let's be real. So for those who have played Curse of Strahd in here, I don't know if any of you guys have, but no spoilies. We're up to the part where they just recently found out about
So
the
good.
Pasties having maybe children. He ate him on his own accord. So anyway,
You know what?
that's
on him then. DM can't actually force you to do anything. Sorry.
Nope, that was all him.
That
So
was
anyway, yeah,
incredible.
that's I took on the role of a forever DM. I love the prep. I love doing the research. I love adding supplemental material. I'm not too great with voices, but man, I spent way too much money on this already, but it is one of my, like, favorite pastimes now. Like, if I want to do something in my free time, it's probably D&D now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'm at.
All right. Well,
It is life consuming.
It definitely
it is kind of crazy how just much it works its way into your life, and you're like, well, I'm one of these people now.
Yeah, I remember, Nick, we hung out a while ago. It was a couple of years ago now, but you were like, you should play D&D, and I was like, yeah, maybe one day. And then, like, this year I messaged him and I was like, well, I did it and I'm hooked, and now here I am spending like thousands of dollars on this.
Well, you know, I already gave my backstory on how I got started, but it's one of those things. I always dogged D&D before I started playing it, and like, I'm a nerd about everything, but you know, it's like, oh, D&D, come on, that's like the ultimate nerd thing, right? Like, come on, I'm not even that nerdy. But it's one of those things. If you know, you know what I mean. Like, if you have any sense of imagination and wonder and stuff like that, it's like, it's so perfect for those kind of people. I feel like creative people, especially, it really fit in well with D&D games campaigns.
Totally.
Yeah, I would
It's
agree.
a wonderful space for open imagination.
For sure.
Even
Oh,
if
yeah.
be anything.
Oh yeah. So just
Well, I think that
that's a good
transition segue, yeah.
Well, yeah, good segue. So Nick, you're DM player. Des, did you say that you're more recently a player?
I have played in a campaign. If I had to choose to just do one, I would probably pick DMing. I really liked
Versa.
the story creating. I mean, you just get to do that as a player, but for me, it's much more rewarding making up a story or making up a setting, doing that world building, uh, rather than playing in it. I'm not super concerned about that. I have some fun with it, but
Yeah.
DMing is where it's at for me.
Yeah. We're world building. I mean, I get lost in it, but my favorite part ultimately is seeing my players get challenged and then putting things together, like putting together the puzzle or beating that boss and like leaning back in their chair, like it really took something out of them. Seeing that relief, that frustration, oh, I love it. Um, yeah, the whole just a quick small story, and then we'll go into the next one. CJ, my player, ate dream pasties, and he got addicted to them. I mean, that's part of the story. And so he recently found out that, hey, there might be children in these pasties, and like I kind of blew over it in story. Like I just kept a natural dialogue, and my players, like the other three, are going, oh, okay, yeah, we kind of figured. And CJ was like, hold on, stop. Like, what?
I ate those.
Yeah, and his response was just the night, like beautiful. But those responses, those genuine, like, what the fuck responses, I love them. I love them.
Well, my DM, by the way, cutting in right here, my DM's in chat right now. Fortiori says, Harmon Quest got me started on D&D, oddly enough. I don't know what Harmon Quest is. Oh, actually, I do. What's it called? Dan Harmon from Rick and Morty, right? That's what Harmon Quest is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
So it's probably pretty chaotic.
Yeah.
And a little absurd.
I love
I
it.
made a D&D Rick and Morty adventure module. I've never honestly
True.
cared to look at it. It seems cool, but I don't know. Never just hadn't had an interest in checking that one out.
The one module, like custom module that I wanted to play was the Mass Effect one. That one looked really, really
That
fun.
would be cool.
Mm.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, that'd be really fun. So just kind of having to go back a bit.
What is D&D?
Yeah, what is D&D? What are we even talking about? D&D is Dungeons and Dragons. It is a tabletop role-playing game where you have a DM, such as, the three.
DM meaning Dungeon Master.
Dungeon Master or Game Master. There's two. And so basically the DM, the GM, whatever you want to call it, I refer to myself as a DM.
GMs are for business.
Wow.
Yeah.
DM in the front, DM in the back.
That's right.
I don't know how to respond to that, and I have to think about. Like, give me 10 minutes, and I'll
just described a mullet in the worst
repress
possible
it.
way.
Right.
I might grow a mullet just so I can say that.
No.
I kept mine for that joke.
Lord. That was good. Oh Lord. So your DM is your storyteller. They are your opponent. They play the monsters. They write the story. They build in character backstories. They talk to all your players. Basically, they run you through this campaign. They're the rule maker, essentially. Your players can say, hey, I disagree with this rule, but ultimately it is the DM's decision. They are the, I don't know, keeper of lore, keeper of rules, keeper of what do you want?
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, no, that's for sure.
Basically God.
Yes.
The god of the story.
Well, and I think a good way to describe it is the players definitely fuel the game, but the DMs are the engine, because without a good DM, you would have nothing.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of work. Then you have your players. And it depends on, what kind of player or what kind of game do you want to run? Do you want to be a little bit more role play heavy, where you're really going into like deep lore, story backgrounds? Or do you want something more battle heavy, where it's more battle? Which one is it, right? There's groups that are on both extremes, and then there's some that are right in the middle where it goes back and forth and it's balanced.
D&D's got 3 pillars to its like to its main idea, the role play, like you touched on, the combat, and then there's exploration.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what we were talking earlier about, like the puzzles and kind of having to test stuff out to figure out what's there and what isn't, and just kind of figuring out your surroundings, because the DM will often lay down a scenario or a scene for what's in front of the players, and then the players have to kind of move about that scene and start asking questions about what's around or trying to find things that maybe haven't been described.
Yep.
It's all imagination.
Yeah, Mike, my DM and good buddy here that's in chat, I've talked to him at length about it at times where, our group in particular is very mischievous and we like to go off and explore and do a lot of things. And he's like, sometimes I got to keep you guys in line because you'll just never get to the main story. And honestly, we went months without doing anything in the main story. I went off on tangents with my barbarian on a hunt to get these the golden antler elk. Like it took like a whole campaign session.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
it's definitely a balance that DMs have to keep too, according to him. I mean, never DM'd, but according to him, it's a balance I have to keep with, like, how much do I keep my players in line and how much do I just let them do whatever the fuck they want? Like it's a fine line, I think.
I used to have I've never DM'd myself, but one of my good DMs used to say it was like herding cats. Keeping all the players.
Yeah,
at tables
kinda.
like
I
herding
mean,
cats.
yeah, when your players get comfortable, yeah, for sure. Like they'll want to go do something, and you're like, I have to improv all of this. like,
Come back, guys. Come back.
I didn't plan for that.
Yeah.
Well, this
I'd
is
have to get up from the table and I'd have to like walk away. I'd be like, I need a couple minutes, you guys. I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do, but I have to think of something because we're not done with the session.
This is the second campaign that this group has done together in a row. So like the first one, we're kind of like mostly straight to the point, didn't do much exploration, and now we're just kind of like we're comfortable with one another and like our play styles, and we're just like, let's fucking do everything.
Yep, absolutely, man. And then when a group, I really like when a group becomes cohesive. At least I feel like my party is pretty cohesive. There's just like this nice ebb and flow where they can they're able to read what the DM is putting down. In my opinion, this is a cohesive group, right? When there's tension, they'll listen to the DM, right? And they'll listen to that rise and that climax. And then when it's time to joke around, they're gonna joke around. When the tension gets too thick, somebody's gonna come in and cut it, and that makes a good group. When you have that cohesion in a group, oh my god, it is just a godsend for DMs.
So let me actually ask you all a question here. It just popped into my mind. Here's these random tangents that always happen. So I know that like butting of heads can definitely happen in game. And, if you're playing with friends, usually it means nothing. But have you ever ran into a situation, any of you, where it actually spread, the tension spread either from outside of the game seeped into the game, or vice versa, where the tension inside the game seeped to outside the game into real life?
Yeah, in Adventure League, there was a situation where I had a player who was a young buck. He was like 18 in the military and stuff like this. And we had a bit of a new group. There were these two players who I believe were non-binary.
Okay.
And kind of younger. They had to be like 16, 17, and very sensitive kinds of people. Well, he starts blurting off about this backstory he wrote for this drow, about how they had been, what's the word for it? This thing where his drow had been groomed by this older drow for like decades previous and had endured all these kind of really horrible things throughout their history before getting to this point in the story. And I was like, all of that was unnecessary. All of that was like unneeded, and we didn't need to know about any of that.
Yeah.
And it definitely led to those new players being really, really uncomfortable. They were really cool. I enjoyed having them at my table, but they never showed back up. They did not come back.
Yeah.
And it was other people in the group who had to get a hold of the events manager and be like, we don't want this kid at our game anymore. This is like kind of the last straw.
Oh God.
Because he would constantly try and edgelord stuff like that, where it would just be, oh, this is super risque and gross, and it's like, yeah, and there's a reason people don't do it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially
So
in a
yeah,
public
I've definitely
room.
had that.
But I mean, backstories are fun, but when it becomes,
It's unnecessary.
Yeah.
It's totally unnecessary to have anything like that in there.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah, there was so much gross stuff in that backstory that everybody at the table was just like, did you just like try and trigger every woman here or
Jeez.
non-binary person? Like everybody was
This
triggered.
is for like a year-long campaign with your friends. This is for one night with strangers.
Yeah, it was unnecessary.
Even worse, I just realized that. Yeah, it's Adventure League. You're not even with these people for a while. Oh Lord.
right, he had just met them. He had just met them like 3 hours before.
Some
Yeah.
some people are just attention whores. Let's be real. Like no matter what they're doing.
You know what? Yeah, that's what he was. He
Yeah.
was a huge attention whore, and it would just get a little ridiculous sometimes. That was one actually with that kid where the first time that I played with this group of people, because there was kind of like a regular group of people that showed up to Adventure League and stuff. They
Sure.
knew about this kid and how he was. So
Yeah.
one of the other people of the group would just like kind of like you two giving shit to each other, but you've been friends for a really long time.
Yeah.
You could tell that it was like just a couple of sprinkles of playful, but with like mostly really tightly balled fists. The words that they were saying back and forth to each other, where it was like, do I need to break this up or something? And then they'd assure me that like that's a usual thing, and I'm like,
Or
right.
just a little bit of a
Man.
cunt. Just a bit
Yeah,
of a cunt.
no, yeah.
Man.
That kid was.
I run my table with your personal problems are not part of the game. Period.
That's
you have a
absolutely
problem
true.
If you have a problem that's going on like it is here for us to relax, enjoy each other,
It's a game.
the company, the story, right? If somebody has a problem at my table, I encourage, if it's only character related, I encourage them to role play it out. If they can't come to an agreement, usually I step in and I'm like, okay, this is technically how it is, and it cuts it. But so far I haven't had to deal with like big problems.
That's good.
It's deal with it in the game if it's character related, and if you have a problem outside of it, deal with it outside. So I don't like the drama. I don't like any of that. It's no for me.
All right, cool. Well, sorry to tangent, but I just
All right, cool.
having a group here, that I don't get to talk to a lot of D&D players, so just figured I'd ask the question. Especially, there's probably some people in here that have never played, so maybe they're scared because maybe they think there might be some tensions that arise. But I think it's pretty rare, don't you? Pretty rare that would happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Most of the time that I've been playing a long time, and issues like that do not come up very often, especially if you know people. Like
Right.
that was the worst one, but that was a stranger. Like I don't.
Right.
That's weird. Yeah, that's really weird.
Super weird.
I can't imagine that.
Okay.
Having a good group of other players is really key to everyone having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And normally you're playing with a group of close friends, so you already have kind of weeded that person out of your friend group. Those that guy moments rarely happen unless you're doing something like Nick does, where you're in a DM for strangers on a rotating basis. I can think of all the times I've role played. Only one time the person really get under my skin, but I think he got the hint, and by the second time he wasn't showing up anymore.
There you go. There you go.
This was like, I will snore you to death. I'm just playing.
In D&D, we call that what would be a good replacement for a snore attack? Dissonant whispers.
Oh, I was gonna say like thunder wave. I mean, I guess it depends on your snore.
Yeah, it's a better one. Yeah.
My character almost killed Dez's character with a thunder wave in our very first session. It was great. I apologize again, but
I apologize. How many years or days or months has it been?
I think it was like 2 years ago, and I still, I still bring it up.
He's still salty about it, which is
Forgive me.
The argument.
So before we get into our other bits of D&D pieces here, because we got some other stuff we want to talk about, and we definitely want you guys to talk about your stuff. That'll be the last half of the show. So we talked about like what D&D is, but I think where at least for me, the confusion. There's a lot of moving parts to character building and to what kind of character class you're going to choose. Like that's a big decision because I mean, unless your character dies and you recreate a character, that's the character you're stuck with. So let's talk about the different classes and kind of what they are and how it relates to the game.
Your
Right.
classes are kind of like your jobs, basically. So they're different classes based on different kind of jobs that character would do. You have your like healing classes, which are going to be paladin, cleric. Um, wow.
Bard. Paladin, cleric, bard.
Bard.
Yeah, bard falls in under that healing one for sure as well. Some other classes can have healing spells too, like druids or sorcerers can pick up healing spells.
Yeah.
But as far as like being your healers, that's kind of the main bag. Then you have your martial characters, which are like your fighters, the barbarian, the fighter, the ranger. It's kind of easier to group them up into just that magic user and then like martial weapon user kind of group. One's obviously a little bigger than the other because it is like a magical fantasy game. But that's kind of your main split when you're making a character. Am I going to use magic or am I not?
Yeah.
And then that kind of helps you narrow things down a little bit further.
Yeah, I think that was a great explanation.
Yep.
You have your classes, which martial and magic, and then you have your races, which can help or impede your build. I don't want to go like too much into the races, because there's
There
a
are
lot.
so many.
There's so many.
There's so
There's so
many.
many. Like flashbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many, but very cool races are out there. We are, I think it's with Dragonlance. We're gonna get Kendor.
Mhm.
Kendor?
Kender.
Yeah, it's tender.
Yep.
Yep.
Getting
Yep.
Kender.
So that's gonna be pretty cool.
Little eggs with a toy inside them.
Yes, you break them open.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they were banned. That's
and
really cool.
and they have prizes.
Don't swallow it.
A quick explanation of the Kender is they're a little bit like halflings in their size, much more fey in personality, and people don't typically like Kender very much because they have no concept of personal property. So if they see something, they just take it. You have something, well, it's theirs too, so they just take it, which can be problematic in a wrong player's hands.
Sure.
I'm pretty
But-
sure that they've kind of smoothed that over with this next release, that it's not really part of the origin of that species anymore. Maybe there'll be something that hints to it, but in older editions, they definitely had Kinders played as a more curious kind of creature that doesn't really care if something's in your hands. If they want to see it, they'll see it and just kind of whoop, look at it, whatever. But they've
Small
tried to
chaos
smooth that
people.
over. Yeah, huge chaos energy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
already know one of my players is ready for it, and I just know how that's gonna go. I'm mentally preparing myself for that now. So
yeah. Well, I was gonna say we all play with one of those players that they're gonna take advantage
I'm
of
that
it.
player. I'm my own worst enemy when I'm a player.
Oh, do you play rogue?
No, my character that I was playing when I was playing for just a couple weeks, I was doing a Naga Bard.
Oh, heck yeah.
So so I had really, really high charisma, and so I was always trying to like charm people and then steal stuff at the same time because my stealth was really good and my charisma was really high. So
It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't take anything.
I rolled a lot of nat ones. It was not good.
Oh.
Okay, well, that's a good segue. What does everyone play? I play right now he's a chaotic neutral barbarian.
Okay.
Who has a history of battling in the arena, but he was exiled because he killed someone, and yeah, he mostly does things out of self-interest of competition and nothing else. He doesn't really care about like doing anything, just because he's supposed to. He only does it for the competition. So It's fun with a barbarian to do that with. Let me tell you.
What is that
Good
song?
character
Anything you
motivation.
can do, I can do better. Like
It's
that's your theme
literally
song.
like anytime an interaction happens, or if I beat someone at something, or if I meet someone for the first time, I'll just I'll say, "Oh," and I flex and wink.
Always
That's good.
flex.
Yep.
I'll always
That's
specify
good.
what I flex. Sometimes it's my glutes, sometimes it's my biceps. It just depends.
You know what? I can't
You're getting
imagine
creative.
DM.
At least you're
And
creative with it.
specific.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I did. I tripped one of our players in the boss room just because we were trying to see who could get there first.
Great.
Wow.
Again,
Competition.
chaotic neutral.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Man. Jess, what do you play? Or I guess what do you play now?
What am I playing now? Currently, for the after party campaign, which Nick DMs on Mondays, which is the one that you saw us do the Bagman adventure with. That one I am currently doing a Paladin Sorcerer cross class.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah. Her name is Corey, and Azamar, just like the celestial people.
Mhm.
Um,
cool.
taking
love that.
sword. So I get to heal everybody.
That's what
I'm a healer.
my mom's doing. That's what she's playing as. A paladin
Paladin?
sorcerer, yeah. And
Really?
I
Wow.
say Asimir, but Asimir, however you said it, that sounded way cooler. But yeah, she's actually doing the same thing.
Ass smear.
Oh, that's so cool.
Asimir.
No, that's
It's
so
pronounced
cool.
awesome.
That is, yeah. Asimir, yeah. That's what we're gonna start calling it. Jez, what are you playing?
So I haven't been playing anything recently. I've been doing a lot of real life barbarian training. But when I was playing with these guys, I was a golden dragonborn sorcerer. And
Ooh.
story is, I actually wanted to be a cleric. But when I told Nick, who was DMing that, about it, he's like, "Oh, we got this other kid that's playing a cleric. You should be like a spellcaster or something." And I did not want to be a spellcaster. I was like, all right, sure, I'll do it. And then the guy who was supposed to be the cleric was super annoying and showed up like one time.
Oh,
So I ended up just being stuck with this sorcerer. But yeah, it ended up being super fun just because with all the spells, I always got really creative with it. I'm sure it was probably to Nick's frustration, a lot of the stuff I would come up with, because it was just always very unconventional.
I was gonna say it's so you can piss off your DM. That's fine. My
And, you
players
know,
do it. It's cool.
I'm the kind of DM though that I run with what's called the rule of cool, where
Yeah.
I'll allow some kind of ridiculous things in my game sometimes because it's just that awesome or ridiculous that it's like, you know what, I love how off the wall that is. Let's try and make it happen, kind of thing. So yeah, it was much to my chagrin sometimes making you be the spellcaster. But you know what, you did well with it, so I don't see a problem.
I love it.
Can I?
I
I
do
wanna
have to
add-
mention a notable moment, sort of, I guess, about my play style, which sometimes I guess would frustrate Nick and some other people. So our party was going through some elaborate dungeon with all sorts of puzzle doors and whatnot, and my character is like comes from a noble background and just not interested in it. So I did not help anybody at all. And there was a wraith that was sort of overseeing everyone doing the puzzle. So rather than help my party, I just tried to chat up the wraith, like ask him how his day was going, try to get like a friendly conversation going. And everyone was like, "What are you doing?" Not Parthenax, the character, Des. Like, what are you doing right now? I'm like, he's been here for millennia. Just sitting here. I'm sure no one's like talked to him. You gotta be friendly to service people.
I love it.
He was literally bored to death.
And yeah,
Oh God. At that time, I was actually playing the character that inspired my tag, which is Sella, who is a high elf bard, and I hate Parthenax so much. Damien's wizard or Damien's sorcerer. They would butt heads a lot.
She came from a noble background as well. They were both nobles who just kind of hated each other, and there was this whole bit in the backstory where his brother was betrothed to her against her willing. Like, there was a lot.
That sounds great. I love it.
It was so much fun.
I love it.
We actually, at the end of that arc, we did kill his brother. It was nice.
It was the BBEG for that portion of the campaign. Big bad evil guy for the uninitiated.
I was about to hit that. Yeah, very nice. Well, I played God still.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I guess I'm the only one to not answer. I could tell you about my character, but I think of all the NPCs that I get to play and come up with. Probably two of my favorites, because there's a lot I could go on for a while. One of them is a wizard named Vince, who was actually Parthenax's teacher. And the voice that I came up for him was just like this super nerdy, wackadoo fucking wizard who just would make things animate and everything would walk, and he'd get a little ahead of himself sometimes. And the other NPC was for our the Star Wars game that we had done. The quest kind of giver for the players that Damien or Des and I had come up with for that Star Wars campaign was a Toydarian named Glug, who dealt in like international or would that be intergalactic space porn and stuff like that, but needed to send our characters out on missions to like get parts for the ship or things like this. And he was just a dirty old guy from Jersey, so he would talk like this all the time. And it would just be real nasty to have to go see him ever. But those are my favorites.
Mike, take notes. You need to do better with your voices.
Oh my god! Listen, my favorite that Nick has done was the Dimmadome. He did a Dimmadome. Go ahead and hit us with that voice, because that was great.
All need to go over to this here skelly place over now, and we will send you with the appropriate equipment. Whenever you get there, we will tell you what the mission is going to be. It was like Doug Dimmadome from Fairly Odd Parents, but with a little bit more Creole in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that.
Me and Nick play. Doug Dimmadome is a reoccurring character. It's always some version of it,
as it should be.
Yeah, we always throw in Doug Dimmadome.
He's owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome, of course.
Why wouldn't he be in your campaign?
We have in my last campaign, we did the Lost Mines of Fendelver, and the guy that ran the inn, I don't remember his name now, but I made him a Hydra homie. And so all my players, like, he served wine, but it was always water. Like, he always wanted to do water. And they were really suspicious of him, like, with the water. He would always slide water down the bar. And only one player drank it. And then after that, they realized that he was a Hydra homie. And so, like, they were constantly going in and having this, do you want water? And then, like, a handshake came out of it. And then it was, like, an elaborate handshake of arms and just doing Hydra homie stuff.
Oh.
It was weird. Like, I went into it because they liked it, but
why not?
He was a Hydra homie. And then my favorite NPC, and then my favorite NPC is actually the villain. I love playing Strahd. I did a lot of research on him, and my players hate him, like absolutely hate him.
Nice.
My mother, I think, is the only one who's like, he's a formidable foe, and we're gonna die. Like,
that sounds like your mom so much. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, he's smart, he's handsome, he's a general, he does magic, he brought down a storm, and we're all gonna die.
She's like, why aren't you more afraid of this?
Yeah. And the other ones are like, he's a punk ass bitch.
Oh shit.
Like, yeah. So I really love playing Strahd.
So we'll let you guys showcase all your stuff here real quick, but real quick, let's just kind of go through the line here. We can kind of touch on this other stuff a bit with this all-encompassing question, and that is, I haven't been playing D&D for very long, but I know a lot of you are veterans. Did you ever envision that D&D would get as big as it has become? Because I feel like it's really starting to catch fire. And I honestly think that COVID helped that a lot, because people were bored and they're like, what can we do with our friends? And there's Dungeons and Dragons. Um, I mean, I personally, as an outsider looking in, someone who hasn't played it for very long, I never thought it would get to the hype and fame that it has, and it's been going on for how long now? I mean, the 80s,
30 plus
right?
years.
It's the
Yeah.
70s, like
70s,
76.
70s.
Yeah, 76. Gary Gygax put out Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And actually, fun fact for you guys: the
Okay.
active tabletop role playing games goes back as far as Warplay does, because tabletop role playing games actually came from the war room, where warring sides would have a table with different positions of armies on them, and they would go through scenarios of what happens if this army dies here, and then play on a tabletop over those scenarios and kind of figure out what is going to happen in battle.
Wow.
So the act of tabletop role playing goes back
Wow.
way further than you even think, because they used it in wartime forever. But no, I never thought that it would get this big. Even when I started, I think the kind of draw, or the thing that pulled me into it, besides my friend, was D&D Beyond actually starting out and kind of putting things out there and getting bigger. That was kind of the main reason that the friend that wanted to start it wanted to, is because we didn't have to go through writing up character sheets and all this kind of stuff. We could just do it online. It was going to be easier and simpler, and we could kind of go with it.
Yeah.
But even since then, in the like 6-ish years that I've been playing, it's like, yeah, it's gotten huge. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm rather of the opposite opinion. I think that because the IP is as old as it is, I don't think that it wasn't as popular. I just don't think that it was commercialized quite as much. Because
Okay, I can
I
see
know
it.
a lot of veteran players been playing since like the 80s, and they love to talk about it. And they know these communities from way back when. People played in high school. It's been around. It's just with the advent of technology getting better and better all the time, people taking it to YouTube, it's gotten so much more, airtime in the public eye that it had no choice but to grow. I think it was inevitable though. It's such a good thing. Like it's just so much fun, and people do genuinely like it unless they have a reason not to, and then they're just dumb. Personal opinion. I think it's
So
a
yeah,
natural progression, and I think it will get bigger.
Yeah.
I think with what Sella was saying, now that it's so much more accessible, it's easy to see why it's growing so much. In the same way that books are still very popular,
Yeah.
because it allows you to use your imagination to make the scenario ideal for you with the description you're given. So, for instance, I'm sure we've all had this experience where you read a book and all the characters look a certain way to you
Mm-hmm.
based on the descriptions you read, and then the live action movie comes out and you don't like it as much because they look that way. It's not the way you want.
Yeah.
So, Dungeons and Dragons, or any role playing game, gives you the opportunity to have a cool, almost video game like experience, especially with technology now. You can have your multiplayer lobby kind of experience with your friends, but it's still that imagination aspect where everything looks how
Yeah.
you want it to. You're not set with what the video game developers gave you or what DLCs you could buy. It's just the only thing is limited by your imagination and then the rule books that you have. And with those being so accessible, it's super easy to get into now. And I mean, you do end up spending a lot of money if you want to get really into it, but you can start playing this for free.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Pretty sure all the basic
Yeah.
stuff's free.
Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah,
play for
D&D
free.
Beyond.
We play for free on D&D Beyond and Roll20 as our tools. And so
Mhm.
going back earlier, I said it was kind of daunting whenever I started to get into it because there was so many character build options and stuff like that. But there's so many good guides out there now, character builds and such, that I mean, you could just start there and kind of do your own thing. But there's so many tools. To your guys' point, everyone said it, like the advancement of technology has really, I think, propelled D&D. It was like you said, maybe Sella, that it's always been there, but the way it's been propelled by technology is what's making it catch fire more, and why we're seeing a D&D movie, and we're seeing like new campaigns roll out quicker and stuff like that. So
Yeah, people are just getting more confident about it. I
for
think it's
sure.
also really nice. Like, as adults, we don't generally have a space to play
Mm-hmm.
at all. And Dungeons and Dragons gives anybody who wants to the ability to just come and like be a kid for a little while.
Yeah.
You let go and you just use your imagination, which is also something we don't do a whole lot in our adult lives anymore. I think we just we need more of that, which is another reason I love D&D. Everyone
Yep.
needs to play sometimes.
Yeah.
Yep. It's all encompassing. My youngest player just turned 19, and my oldest player is 60 some. But and we have everyone in between basically. It is all encompassing. I think part of the reason why it didn't get big so quickly was, I mean, there was the satanic panic.
Yeah, but
But
everything
I
was
also
that
think
too, to be fair. I
I think
mean,
it was a
Pokemon, for Christ's sake.
materialism thing because it started in the 70s, and
Yeah.
then a lot of it was vinyl and cars, and look at all these new appliances that are coming out. You know, I think a lot of it was materialism, right? What can we go have? What can we go do? But at the time, it's not really that much. I mean, you're using imagination to play a game, quite literally, right? You can only have your like little lead minis, and that's about it. And so when it was considered like a niche nerd thing, it was also a non-materialistic game. And then the
That's a
amount of
great point.
thought, right? The like we're going to school, we're going to work. A lot of people don't want to put in that effort. Being a DM, not saying a woe is me because I love it, but it is a lot of work. It is a lot of reading. It is a lot of making sure that you have a general understanding. If your DM puts in, you know, a lot more work for props, for voices, for storytelling, supplemental material, you know, it is a lot of work. And so I think part of it was materialism. Now that it's getting bigger, it is more accessible. It is easier to maintain now. Um, on top of that, it is getting that light. I mean, Stranger Things took Dungeons and Dragons and just used it
Yeah.
as a, you know, here we go. Like this is fun, right?
Like a springboard
Um,
for him.
yep. And so it is getting the attention it definitely deserves, like you said, Jess. Absolutely. It is about time.
It is about damn time. Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
So speaking of
Um,
like pop culture and such things, and you know where it's getting propelled to those levels, I actually think the D&D movie looks really fun. I like that it's just random people because like playing characters because that's exactly what we do, right?
Yeah.
It's not like really necessarily someone from like the campaigns. It's just like, oh, here's these people that they're playing these characters in a game. Yeah, I think it looks fun. How about you guys?
I'm so
Yeah.
stoked for it. So stoked.
Yeah. Pretty
I
interested.
think it looks amazing.
Yeah,
I
I
love
think it looks great. I think it's shenanigans at any party. There's always going to be like some crazy ass shit that's going on, and I think that with the movie, yeah, absolutely. But I do want to go to Dungeon Crawler Audio. I want you guys to shine now.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Dustin, why don't you go ahead and put on one of their songs, one of their
Okay.
ambiances. Um,
Sure,
Let's
and
start-
I will.
Sword Mountains
Oh,
is what I'm starting
yeah.
at.
When did you start?
Sword Mountains.
Okay. I think this one is music and ambience. So here at Dungeon Crawler Audio, we try and provide the audio element to your game. So you have your dungeon master that's giving you the story. You, the players, are imagining it, maybe looking at a map. With both me and Nick having musician skills and sound design skills, we thought it'd be a really cool idea to bring the audio element. So if you're supposed to be in a dark, scary cave, it sounds like you're in a dark, scary cave. Or in this case, if you're exploring the mountains, it sounds like there's a mountain with an eagle flying overhead and whatnot. We put all this stuff free on YouTube so that you could have it running in your Discord while you're in Roll20 and whatnot. But something that we are working on come out in 2023 is songs or sound bites that you can use in your Roll20 so that you can have these soundscapes looping for your players. And we've been making a bunch of sound effects too. Zombies, goblins, swords swinging,
nice.
all sorts of things.
Some of the best group footage we have is of us all just sitting and recording voices and various sounds. They turn out being hilarious. My personal favorite so far has been doing zombie noises. A lot of
Okay.
fun.
She's terrifying.
Zombie noises
I
are definitely
fast,
some of
like-
the most fun.
This one's the Fairy
Not
Dragon Lair that I'm playing right now, by the way.
Okay. The Fairy Dragon Lair was one kind of out of my brain a little bit. tried to just kind of capture some of the essences of the Feywild and that very like magical forest kind of sounds. I think, yeah, I made that one while I've been running the Well Beyond the Witchlight campaign, which takes place in the Feywild. So it was kind of a double entendre for myself too, to have a Feywild track to be able to play during that game. But we take a lot of different real life sounds as well as digital instruments, and we kind of mix them together to create these soundscapes. Sometimes with music, sometimes with, or I should say, sometimes with melody. Most of the time they are with music anyway. We have some dark ambient stuff that mostly Des takes care of for the Dark Sun campaign setting, and that's got some musics in it as well. The melody is maybe the only difference, but um, that's more of our darker side, I guess, is the way to put it.
You mean, okay, I'll play the Dark Sun now. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to
Yeah.
use the. You guys did the Underdark.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah,
That
those
one. I
ones
want to.
too.
I want to use that one for my campaign. It's gonna be
Nice.
work great. I'll definitely give you guys a shout out when I use it, because I listened to it and I was like, oh yeah. So it's gonna work real great. So when you guys make your music, are you doing research for like D&D backgrounds or classes or areas, or like how long does it take for you to like do that research? And then when you're doing that research, are you thinking of a melody or something dark? Like tell me what that looks like.
So, pardon me. It really depends on the end product or what we are doing. So Nick had mentioned previously that I handle a lot of the stuff for the Dark Sun campaign. It's an AD&D setting where it's a very dry, desolate world. It's supposed to be like post-apocalyptic. There's no metal. It's just bone and stone for weapons and things like this. So I'll usually go through and look at some various locations from the Dark Sun setting, and certain locations just draw up a sense of dread or whatnot. And from there, I don't necessarily have a melody in my head, but a feeling of that I'm trying to come across. And a lot of that Dark Sun stuff is very dark ambient, so it's these rising, like droning tones, very scary. For other locations that are like Forgotten Realms locations, like Waterdeep or the Sword Mountains or whatever, we do research for that, and Sela usually will lead that up, or she already kind of knows about it, and gives us some major talking points about, oh, it's geographies like this, or there's a river here, or things like that.
Okay.
And we then work to put that in there. As far
Very
as
nice.
that, a
Yeah.
lot of that recently we just know. But as for the making of it, I can do some of these very quickly, and I'll do 2 or 3 a night. Other ones could take weeks
Wow.
to get done. It just depends on the project.
There have been plenty
Wow.
of times where in our research we've realized, like, oh, that's a very specific sound that this place is going to produce that we don't have. So we have to
Yeah.
go about either recording it or finding some way to, through music magic kind of chicanery, come up with a way to make that sound happen. Kind of like Des was saying, actually, I come up with soundscapes pretty similar, where upon like researching the location, it'll start to give me feelings for like how I want the overall sound to feel. A lot of times we'll go set out to just make a soundscape, so it's just going to be like real life folly of leaves and twigs and things like that, and then it just needs music over it. So we'll go ahead and write something that goes on top of that, and then produce both of those. We put both of them on our YouTube for you to be able to use just the soundscape or the soundscape and the music if you like.
That's awesome.
We don't very often just put the music out there. It's usually music and soundscape. If any
Okay.
fans ever request, though, just for a music piece, there's no reason that we won't put that out there for you. If that's something you
Well,
would like.
speaking of which,
Yeah.
the Mystic Forest one I'm particularly fond of. I'm about to play it right now. I feel like
That is probably our top played track, I believe.
I really want some chill hop drum beats in the background of this, because I feel so if you could work on that, that'd be
It's funny
great.
you mentioned that, Justin, because outside of Dungeon Crawler Audio, I have a music project, or I have a few, and that one came from a music project called Pasithea Azuro, and I am doing more music like that coming up that's going to have drum beats and that sort of thing going on, but we probably won't feature it on the Dungeon Crawler channel.
Okay.
Well, if you want to make us a song that's like this, hit me up because I could commission something like that because this is great. This is my shit.
We can definitely do that. So, our main thing right now has just been making music for YouTube, but something that I have had skills in, and we as a company are trying to do more of, is just making music for things. Like, I've made a lot of music for podcasts, video games, VR experiences, etc. So we're trying to, expand our brand to encompass that as well. But we are a Dungeons and Dragons centric brand, if you will.
For sure.
Dustin, could you pull up the Busy Marketplace?
Yep. It's right here right now.
Yep.
So-
Actually,
so-
That
CJ
one was
just
a
asked
lot
about
of fun
that
to
too.
make.
So this one is actually probably our most technically advanced thing that we've done, because everything that's going on in this, except for some horse noises, we actually recorded all ourselves.
Wow.
So we all posed as vendors and read a bunch of different lines. And then to make the crowd noise, we put microphones in different areas of this apartment we were staying in, and walk around and do different takes and put all of those together. All the
Quick
coin
pause.
noise-
Quick pause, because that has a story behind it. Having to do that particular recording was probably one of the more mind-numbing things we've ever had to do for this company, because each of us were walking around this apartment just reading books and saying stuff, not talking to each other at all, but just talking.
Just making noise.
for probably 5 minutes or more. Probably we
Wow.
spent almost 2 hours, I think, actually getting all of these different recordings down, doing different kinds of takes to get different qualities of audio, and it was just us just talking out loud, kind of obnoxiously. And then for the rest of the night, when we were done recording, we would still talk over each other. We'd all just kind of talk at the same time a little bit. It got weird.
Just as a little funny, do you guys have a cabbage man somewhere in here? Cabbage, like Avatar: The Last Airbender?
My
Is
cabbages.
it in there?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
So
wish there
Des
was.
has never seen the show. Des has never watched it, so he
We'll
doesn't
say
get that
we
reference.
do have a thing like that, though.
There is.
So one of the recordings we got is from a market. I want to say it's in Vietnam or Laos, some Southeast Asian country. But if you listen to a lot of our cityscapes, you get $5, $5,
Oh, okay.
$5.
Wow.
He's our cabbage man,
Just
apparently.
Yeah.
Okay.
Almost anything that's a city. We just, how present he is determines on the thing. But if you listen for it, we got that guy. Also, there's a
Okay.
lot of our funny banter. If you really listen in there, it's quiet, so it'd be hard to hear. But there's some really funny skits, or just us cracking jokes at one another in there whenever there's people present. Just little Easter eggs for anyone that's really listening.
Wow.
Mhm.
Okay. Good
It's
to know.
fun.
Yeah, and I can definitely use. Yeah, I mean, I have a whole list. I definitely want to use the Underdark, the city one. Now I just want to listen to and put my headphones on and be like,
Yeah.
I hear Nick and Des.
Yeah,
I will say,
Jessica!
we do a lot of work so that it sounds like not just us.
Very cool.
You might not hear our voices as such, because we put a lot of work into making it sound right.
Those
Yeah, I
city
listened
noises.
to some. It does. I mean, it sounds great.
Yeah.
It does sound like a busy city.
It does.
Noisy,
And-
going through a market.
And I can tell there was a lot, you didn't even have to describe to me that you did put in the work, because I could tell there's a lot of
Mhm.
ongoing pieces to that clip, and that's incredible. The mixing alone on that had to take forever.
Yeah.
First it did, but
They're good.
with the scale that we work at, you get good really quick doing it over and over
I'm
and
sure.
over and over and over
I
again.
bet.
I mean,
We've got some pretty
those-
standard processes where it's just kind of what steps kind of come after what after a little while.
As someone who
Where
does
to
a lot of
start.
video editing, I understand.
How often, or do you guys do this at all, where you'll make an accidental noise and you'll hear it and go, I need to recreate that? Do you have a notebook just for those noises that you accidentally make, and then want to put them in for an ambiance or a soundscape?
I think that's a natural flow of us. Just when we have our weekly meeting, we will just kind of sit and talk and do whatever. we have a bunch of whiteboards with stuff on it we've probably forgotten about from
Yeah.
months ago. But
Yeah.
we do come up with just lists of things. Oh, this would sound cool. Or yeah, we do keep track. I'm not sure we're great at keeping up with it. We need to get back on that ball. But oh yeah, absolutely.
We kind of have the opposite problem. It's not like we hear something and be like, "Oh, this is really good." It's like, how in the heck do we get that sound?
Yeah,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
even it's gone the other way where we've gotten a sound and it's how did we do that to do it again?
Yeah, I could
Yeah.
see
Kind of
that.
thing.
You're not making the notes as you go along. Like we squished a broom on mud after water, and make your
But
notes,
that's a
guys.
great idea. Love that. Such a good idea. Heck yeah. Alrighty.
New
Slap
DM
some mud with a
ideas,
broom.
guys.
Yeah.
You know what? We always need more ideas. Slapping a broom with mud, that is a fun one. I think the hardest sounds that it's been to get are the outdoors ones because we live center city.
Actually,
Oh
no.
yeah, I'm sure.
So a
Oh.
lot of the field recordings we get are actually from my family farm. My dad,
Oh,
because I do another similar project to this on a different YouTube channel, but he goes around a farm and just sort of has a field recorder and will just leave it out. So a lot of the forest noises, nature noises, and whatnot all come from my family farm.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
Things like that. We do have sounds from all over the world, and we do mix those in. But we try and use as much of our own stuff as possible so it sounds like us.
Yeah.
And I think at this point, I was just thinking of it. Most of the things we make now are entirely our own sounds.
Yeah, I
Only
was gonna say
rarely
it's
do we need to reach for a sound that's we've gotten from somewhere else.
Well, that's proficient.
Nice. Yeah.
yeah, I was
Yeah,
about to say
that's
the same
great.
thing.
Just so you guys, anybody who's watching, Des, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure Nick and Jess are in the same area as me. So we're in Colorado. Dustin is in Kentucky, and so
I
we are
know
right
about that
on.
farm life.
Yeah, we're right on the plains. We're right in the plains, right on the foothills of the mountains. So,
Yeah.
shoot, couple minutes drive to the mountains, and you got
I've
done
done that
nature.
on.
I was
I've
gonna
done
say
that.
he's done that.
Yeah, I've done that on one or two occasions actually. It's worked out pretty well for us.
Yeah.
Nice.
The river sounds, I think, in one of our most recent river videos. That was like right up Gold Camp. Actually, it was like the river just right on Gold Camp Road.
Mhm.
So didn't have to go too far for that one. Just had to do it late at night. So
Wow.
not too much car noises.
Wow, that's cool, guys. So let me ask this then. What is how do I ask this? Where do you guys see Dungeon Crawler Audio in a year, 2 years, 5 years? Like, what is your ultimate goal with this company?
So we want this to be like an entertainment platform, not just indie assets. We're starting with that right now because that's the capabilities we have.
Sure.
Things that we definitely want to start doing are like live D&D games,
Mhm.
other cool interactive stuff like that, or more. We've started recording a series of like DM tips and some other different cool social media stuff, and then just more capabilities in the way you can use our soundscapes or things like that.
Okay.
Different ways you can get them, either whether it be like albums for the music or packs that are ready to go into Roll20, things like that. Nick,
Nice.
did I miss anything?
No, that was actually pretty good. I was honestly I was letting you answer and I was going to fill in anything else you missed, but no, I
Yeah.
think that was actually pretty
That
solid.
yeah, that sounds
Um,
great.
That does sound good.
Just trying to branch out and kind of see what more we can encompass in the D&D realms. Yeah, like Des mentioned, we have kind of a proprietary knowledge sort of social media thing coming up that we've been working on. Taking a lot of different steps to make sure that the recordings are good, that they're edited well, and that we put them out in a content form that's going to work well with a lot of the medias out there right now. Gotta
Okay.
make it work for the algorithm,
Yeah, for sure. Well, whatever you guys work on, hit us up. We will be promoting you guys, okay? Because that's what we're here to do. And since we've been working on doing this podcast for a while now with you guys, and so I've been listening to your stuff and everything, and it's really, really good. The art, who does the art for you guys? Let's talk about that.
that's me.
Yeah.
All right. So that, I mean, it's kind of a sore subject because we do use AI generated art. But for each video, I have to produce like 30 to 40 images, and I'm not actually much of an artist. I can't draw or paint. um, so
He is a
economically,
curator. He
I am a
curates.
Yeah,
curator.
yeah, you
Yeah,
curate it.
I'm throwing
I
up some
curate the
stuff
art.
right now on your Instagram, which I shared in the chat for any. Everyone should follow you guys. But
I will say, if there are any artists out there that would love to make 100+ pieces of art per week, we can pay you $20 a month.
Yeah, and do it for
If you want
free.
to complain about our AI art usage, please step up to the plate. I love to see
Hold
what
on.
we can do.
Hold on.
Um,
Hold on. Hold on. Let me grab the
yeah.
paper. Hold on. Hold on.
Oh, we've had a development, I
We had a
guess.
development.
well, Kat Soren is doing something. Um, she's getting started on it right now. I will say,
Let's go.
I will say
Thanks.
we know plenty of
Perfect.
artists. You can hit up our
If
something
you-
that we
friend
want to do is
Cosplay
interact
Bay.
with the community more and highlight members of the community more. So right now it's me and Nick making the music. Eventually we'd like to highlight other people's music and sound design.
Mhm.
We need to build up a strong base for that. But our initial idea was to have people, other artists, do the art for our videos.
Okay.
We can't, afford to pay anyone for their art, which they deserve, because we don't make any money at this point.
Yeah.
But we really want to highlight other creators out there. When I got turned on to AI GAN breeding art about 2 years ago, it was the best solution to get us something that would evoke something in the imagination that was similar to what we were doing. And Cella's able to do a way better job than I can at making stuff look cool.
I've
So we've
spent
had
about
her
a year.
handle that for now until we can have a community of artists that we work with and make all of our art. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about us building a good brand. We are doing this for the community. We want to
For
grow the
sure.
community, interact with the community, get to know people, play big games with people. Because, that's what this is all about, interaction, making some friends.
Love it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I love
I
that.
personally,
It's
me
a
personally,
wholesome. Wow. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, it's okay.
I'm
Like
touched.
I said, I'm not an artist. I learned how to do it for these guys, to kind of ease their load a little bit so they could focus on the music. My thing, like, I actually really prefer doing voice acting work.
Oh.
That's like an ultimate goal is I would love to be a voice actor. I'd love to read audiobooks. So we have other projects going on. We haven't launched yet where I do more of that style work because that's where I want to be focused.
Hey,
If we
hit me
find more artists,
hit me up after this because I've interviewed a lot of voice actors. So, yeah, I
True
kind
story.
okay.
kind of know a lot about it.
I mean, hell yeah. If you need any samples of my work, Des has a full library of stuff we've been working on.
Okay.
That's proprietary at the moment. I get it. I get what you're saying.
Sorry, that was a segue, but
I love it.
Yeah.
I do the art. It's not
I
where
love
my
it.
heart lies.
Well, AI art, if you want to hear a lot about that, we, in our last podcast with Jen Cosplay Bay, who's a recurring guest on our show, she's a full-time artist now. And she shared her thoughts on it. We shared our thoughts. And her thoughts may not be what you think. So to hear her thoughts on it and our thoughts, listen to last week's podcast, which is up on all of our stuff, Spotify, Amazon, all that, anywhere you can listen to the podcast. This will also be up on all the podcast networks as well. So if if you're listening and didn't hear all of it and you want to check out everything, definitely go check out all that. But I think we're wrapping up here at the end of the show. So one last time, each of you say where you can be found, what you're about, and everyone go give Dungeon Crawler Audio follows. So go ahead.
We are Dungeon Crawler Audio. We can be found on YouTube primarily. We also have a Patreon set up. We also are on Reddit, Instagram, and Facebook. Pretty much most of your large social media platforms. We never gotten involved with Twitter, so don't worry about that one. But you can find us on some of the main pages of the internet, including the front page of the internet, Reddit, where we posted some links to some of our playlists and tracks that are over on YouTube.
Awesome.
Between me and you viewers, I think Reddit's paying him something because he keeps talking about it all the time like he's getting paid. Also, keep an eye out on Spotify, Bandcamp, and SoundCloud. Coming January 2023, we'll have music streaming on all of those platforms.
Sweet.
And we are trying to get it onto Roll20 or in a way that you can get it onto Roll20. Like Nick said, Dungeon Crawler audio everywhere. Also, check out my stuff if you have time. Turismo Blue, Pasthea Azuro. Any of those names, they're also linked in the Dungeon Crawler stuff.
Cool.
Stop by our page, leave us a comment, leave us a like. We love interacting with people. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want. If you don't see what you want on our page, we will make it for you. All you need to do is ask.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Sounds
You
We
great.
take
love
requests.
requests. We love requests.
Awesome.
Weird people.
Well,
Love it.
thank you guys so much for joining us. This was a great time, and I think, you know, everyone, if they haven't tried it, should at least try to play Dungeons and Dragons. And I think what you guys are doing is great for the community, and it's helping propel it even further. So, yeah. Until next time, I'm DC,
I'm Kat Soren.
and this was Dungeon Crawler Audio, and we'll see you next time. And until next time, stay nerdy.
Bye, guys.
Everybody.
Bye.